Welcome to the presentation, Create Standard Operating Procedures. Thank you for spending some time with us today. If you have any questions during the session, feel free to type them in the chat box below. And now it's a great pleasure for me to introduce our speaker, Ms. Karishma Prasad.
Thank you, Tony. Welcome everybody to this session that we have. The topic today, as Tony has said, it's on defining work habits. And we are going to learn how to create standard operating procedures. Now, just to let you guys know, today is just a brief overview of what our intensive program will be like. So the objective for today is the benefits of creating SOPs. We're going to also learn how to create them. And we're going to have a highlight on the SOP training sheet and a training metrics. Now, first things first, when we define work habits, right, we have different things that actually come to mind. So I put in here a few things that I think work towards building a good work habit. The first is to be on time. Now, we must acknowledge that there are leading activities for us to be on time. We wake up, we go and have a shower, we get dressed, we have breakfast, and then we commute to work just to punch in on time. Now, due to the pandemic, we slightly have a bit of flexibility in terms of how we are doing work. We are working from home and remotely mostly. So there is a variation in the leading activities. So we do wake up, but we opt to have a shower, we don't opt to have a shower, we're still in our PJs, we have our breakfast at our table. But the constant in both cases is that we have to be on time. That is, even if I'm working from home, I still have to log in into my machine at the required time. If it's at 8 a.m., I have to log into my machine at 8 a.m. That is how I define a good working habit. Now, the next step to creating good working habit is that you must understand your job scope. In many cases, when we join workforce, our employers give us a document called a job description, which generally describe what they require us to do when we are at work during our allocated work hours. So in order to have success or form a good working habit, we must understand what we are there for, the purpose of our job description. The third to creating a good working habit is to know your products. Now, when I say to know your products, I don't only mean the functionality of your products, but also the limitations of the products. I've spent a few years in the pharmaceutical industry, so I can relate to vaccines very easily. A common one that you guys can relate to right now is the COVID-19 vaccine. We all know that the vaccine has come out, right? But the manufacturers, for example, Pfizer has also said that the vaccine has some limitations. It has to be stored under a temperature controlled environment. And it also has effectiveness, which is not 100%. So it is a good habit to actually know your product as well to have a success in your business and work life. Now we must be prepared to learn. The famous Dr. Albert Einstein has said that learning begins when we are born and it doesn't ease until we die. So with that, if we continue to learn and take every day as a learning step, it's a good habit because we pick up information which we use to have a productive work scope. The fifth step that I have right here is to work your full allocated hours. Now we are all being paid to work a certain number of hours. If I'm being paid to work for 8 hours, I must be able to be productive during the 8 hours. That is how I define a good working habit for myself. The last is to be ethical. Now, to be ethical is you must be knowing the difference between right and wrong when you are at a workplace. So basically, when you are in a work environment or in a work situation, you must be having the soft skills of honesty, teamwork, cooperations as well. So with that, we'll move forward to the next slide, which actually is going to tell us that now to define the good habits that you may have, right? A powerful SOP is very much relevant. Just for some of us who do not understand the meaning of an SOP, it stands for Standard Operating Procedures. By definition, it is an SOP. It is a process that specifies your operation, that describes activities necessary to complete tasks in accordance to your industry regulations, provisional laws, and even just your standards of running your business control. In simple words, it basically tells you how to run your business with control measures. Now, you may ask, what is the benefits of creating SOPs for organizations? The first, it promotes quality standards in your organization. And when you have high quality standards in your industry, there is an increase in your ROI. ROI meaning your return on investment. And we are all happy to have a lot of increase in financial growth in the company. So definitely SOP implementation is a good tool to have. Now, in saying that, this is just a brief outline of what the benefit is. We are going to have case studies and we're going to deep dive even more into the benefits once we come to the intensive trainings. Now, next, an SOP also gives you product information. So like I said, just not the product functionality, but also it outlines your product limitations. This is very, very important because it ensures user safety as well. Now, the next thing, SOPs also benefit in a way that it tells people how to do their job. So it tells you your job scope and how it's supposed to be done. There is no person out there that is left in the dark and left in the water to swim without a SOP when they have an SOP on the hand. So they basically know step by step with all detailed highlights of how they're expected to do their job and what is required and how they're going to do it. Now it avoids variation. SOP is a control document. So when you say it's a control document, it is the same for everybody. If I go in and 5 of my colleagues go in to do the same task at different times, we will all come out with different results. So it is a very important tool to achieve the same result with different operators at the same time. Now, it's a very important tool for audits because we use it for to show that our company is in compliance with the policies and procedures of the governing body. It also addresses the safety standards of a company. So it basically tells you your do's and your don'ts. It's a very important document because for any user, it is telling them that at the end of the day, they can finish their job and go home safely to their family. It avoids miscommunication. Now, miscommunication is avoided simply because an SOP does not have any assumptions. Every little detail that the procedure requires has to be stated in the SOP. Now, the next, we will learn how to create an effective SOP. There's a few elements to consider. The first is the name and the structure of the company. Definitely, the SOP has to belong to a business, so we will have to include the name of the company. If you have a logo, that's even great. So that's the first thing that we have to think about in putting it on a SOP document. Now, the second is we should have a well-structured table. I also have an example of a structured table that you can look at while I'm talking. So your structured table will have a topic. So for example, if this one, it says SOP for distribution and recall, it will have a department to show where this SOP belongs. So it belongs to the department for production. Then it shows the area in the production department where it goes in. So it is in food production. Now the title of the SOP is stated as the distribution and recall in the food production area. Pagination is actually telling you the number of pages your SOP has. So if it has 5 pages, it will say 1 of 5. So you know that the complete SOP document has those many number of pages. We also have a SOP number. SOP number is a unique identifier of the SOP. So it actually tells you that if you pick this particular number, it's going to go to an SOP title for production with distribution and recall. Now there is a creation date. It is the day that the SOP is made. For example, I can make an SOP today, which is the 30th of March, but it is not effective till the 1st of May. And that's where I'm going to put my effective date, which is the next slot under effective date. So creation date will be 30th of March. Effective date is 1st of May. So the next review date. Now SOPs need to be reviewed in a regular basis. Currently in businesses, they have their own systems to review. It could be 6 months, 1 year, or 2 years, depending on how the policy is. But it is essential that yearly it should be reviewed. So you know if there are any changes in the SOP, you can put it in and then put it up for a different version. You have a section for that as well. So it is version controlled. Or you can just go through and see if there's no changes. You can say no changes and still renew it for the next coming year. Now, objective and the scope of the SOP is very important. The objective will tell you why we are drafting that SOP, and the scope will tell you what area is covered in the SOP and what is not. So it is very specific. So now when I was talking about there's no assumption, this is where the details go in. Now responsibility, the responsibility falls under the process owner or the person in charge of the SOP. In this case, for the example that we're looking at, if you're looking at the production department, it could be the production manager or the operations manager. Now the procedures. Now procedures is a step-by-step guideline on how the SOP is going to be. Now it could be having figures in there as well. It could be having charts in there as well. It's something that is very simple for the users to follow. Now, a SOP is not complete unless it has a closing table. It should have details of the writer and the approved person. So example that you can see, you have written by, you have the name, designation, signature, and date. This is done usually by 2 persons. The first is the person who writes it, and the second is a manager or a superior designation that approves the whole SOP. Now you may ask, when do we use SOPs? The first is very much clear to everybody for new recruits. When we have somebody come into the organization, we give them a SOP so that they're able to know their job. When I joined the workforce, I remember several years ago, my manager came up to me and he handed over this thick file and he said, this is what you have to do and this is how your KPI will be drafted. When I opened the file, it was a list of SOPs that the company had. So an SOP is a very useful tool for new recruits as well. Nowadays, as we are in the pandemic with the flexibility of being from home, we still need SOPs to be virtual. We still need SOPs to be sent to our team members who are away from the office, so they are not in panic and anxiety on how to do their job. SOPs are very much an important tool that we use for training programs, usually by our HR and quality teams. In some cases, safety teams also pick this up in their safety programs in the mornings. I've been in construction sites doing programs for them, and then I have seen a lot of safety team that use these kind of documents to press on safety procedures for the day. So the other way where we use revised SOP is when we have system and process upgrades. Every organization is going through continual process improvement. As your processes improve, your SOPs should be revised to reflect truly what your system and process is talking about. Your SOP should not be lagging behind. So when you are doing a system upgrade or a process upgrade, please ensure that you pick up an existing SOP and revise it according to that. And of course, when we're implementing new processes and system, please go ahead and create a new SOP for that, so it can be used as a training guide for the users. Now, once you create a SOP, right, it is actually not a useful document until we train on it. So what I encourage teams to do is that once an SOP document is created, there has to be a document which is called a training sheet that needs to be created in complements to the SOP. And every time a user trains on that or goes through it, they should be able to sign it up as an evidence that they have understood and they know the details of that SOP. Nowadays, because we are so virtual, these SOPs can be put up in a common drive in the company's platform, where users have the ability to go and access and then virtually sign off the documents as well. Now, with the training sheet, an extension to SOPs is a training matrix. A training matrix is a collection of all the SOPs that we have for the business, for the departments, and in conjunction to all the users or all the employees of the department. In one flick of an eye, you can see who's trained, who's not, what SOP is there or not. A very, very important tool when it comes to auditing for internal or external. We do have governing bodies in organizations that actually take care of our SOPs to ensure there's compliance. For example, we have the HR team, the finance team, the operations team, the quality team, the safety team, and of course, the process owners of every department. They will be ensuring that whatever SOPs they have, it is very much validated, true, and reflecting the current operations and the systems that they have. Now, this particular overview was just to get you to the intensive workshops that we are going to be running. And in the intensive workshops, we are going to be having participants who are going to be actively engaged with us to, one, learn about the value of SOPs. In this one, we'll deep dive with a lot of case studies as well for big businesses like Ford, Apple, and Google who have used SOPs to raise their ROI. We are going to help the participants create at least 2 SOPs on that particular day. So when they leave the workshop, they have the knowledge as well as the practical side of creating an SOP. They will also be creating the training sheet and the training matrix. So thank you so much again, guys, for coming in the session today. I'm going to pass it back to Tony, who is going to tell us more about how to contact us about these sessions. And if you have any questions, then we are going to answer now.
Sorry, I was a little bit unmuted. Thank you very much, Karishma, for today's session, and thank you for all of you who participated. If you enjoyed the session today, you can contact us for any public and in-house training. Please visit our website for more courses, and don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn and YouTube for more digital technology insights. Have a nice weekend and see you next time.